Hello, welcome to Hotline Live, brought to you by Record Sport and NordVPN, the best VPN in all the land. I'm joined by the one and only Keith Jackson.
Dan,
Keith, how's it going?
Dan, hold on a wee
I
second
knew,
here.
I knew
Right?
you'd like that one.
I know, but listen, is it, maybe I'm just weird, right? Maybe I've just got my own wee foibles and all this, but do you not think there are some like, adverts when you listen to them, you hear it actually puts you off the whole idea? Do you know what I mean?
Don't say that.
Well, I know. I'm not talking about anything. I'm just like, for example, I don't think I'd ever get a very sure house alarm because of the adverts.
Good point.
And all clear travel insurance is never getting bought.
Yeah.
Because of it. So just kind of raise your game a little bit.
I'll bear that in mind. Thanks very much for that. One team that did raise their game tonight. See, that's the kind of professional segues I'm capable of.
Oh, well done, mate.
Celtic, their first ever win on German soil. It wasn't enough to stop them going out the competition, but I mean, I don't think even the most ardent, positive Celtic fan was expecting a victory in Stuttgart tonight.
No, look, there are various ways of looking at this. Some people will look with the glass half empty. Some will look with the glass half full. Some people will shrug their shoulders and say, meh, it didn't really matter. Was Stuttgart really, taking the game as seriously as they should have done? Were they a bit complacent? Perhaps all of that can be true at the same time, right? But see, for me, Dan, that was a really positive night for Celtic. Forget even the result. Now, it's great because, that's the first one in, 16 attempts for Celtic in Germany.
Yep.
And that's big in itself, although not in the context of the tie because it was already done and dusted. But we knew that. No, if looking at this from a Celtic perspective, with what's about to come, with what's ahead, to get a performance like that tonight, I think is a major shot in the arm. And this is where, you know how we talk about stats, and I'm not a big lover of stats, but I think tonight, 25 attempts from Stuttgart versus 3 from Celtic. Celtic had, 20-odd% possession. So if you looked at these two legs of this tie, and you just look at the stats and nothing else, you'd think, oh, Celtic have done quite well in the first leg, and they've been battered off the park in the second leg. For me, it's the complete flip of that. The stats are telling you a lie in terms of what I saw from Celtic in these two games. See, last week I said it was an embarrassing performance. Some people might think that was a bit heavy, but not me, because I felt that Celtic went into that game not showing any real belief, not looking really committed to what they were trying to do. I thought they were really easy to play against. I thought Stuttgart, just basically played them off their own pitch and could have scored it well. And it was such a lackluster, half-hearted Celtic performance. The stats will say otherwise, but that for me tonight was the energy, aggression, commitment, intensity, desire, all these variables that you can't put in a spreadsheet. You can't summarise it in stats, but it was a different level of Celtic performance for me tonight. And yep, they went long spells without the ball. That was always likely to happen. But, I said last night, Dan, you're looking for Celtic to at least have the professional pride to go and try and lay a glove on Stuttgart tonight. And they certainly did that. And now, because ultimately it's a 1-0 win, it doesn't change the tie. Celtic's European campaign's over for another season. But really, it's always been about the domestic situation that Celtic are facing. And I think they come back from that game tonight feeling so much better about themselves than they were getting on the plane to go to Germany. Yeah. So potentially, Dan, this could be a big moment in this campaign, because if Celtic, if that's the way that they intend to perform, if that's the level of application that these players are going to put in between now and the end of the season, this is not a lost cause. But we've just not seen it anywhere near enough. But Celtic went up through the gears tonight in terms of what they were prepared to give. And I've not seen it, never mind even the Stuttgart game in Glasgow last week. I'm talking about the domestic performances. Nowhere near enough of all these other ingredients that are required if you're going to win games of football, and especially games that really, really matter. So, it could be Jekyll and Hyde. Who knows what you're going to get next in Celtic? But if they take that sort of spirit and attitude into the games that they've got left domestically this season, there could yet be a happy ending for Celtic.
Aye. Well, look, Record Sports' Michael Gannon and Ryan McDonald are in the Mercedes-Benz Arena in Stuttgart. They're hopefully going to join us at some point before the end of the show. Hopefully, although I know they're up to their eyes and stuff. But in the meantime, we've got plenty of comments coming in, Keith. And if you're watching at home, you want to let us know your thoughts on Celtic's win in Germany tonight, please do so. Right, let me run through a few of these. Wilkinson says, best we could have hoped for. First one in Germany and far from the embarrassment many were predicting. Mag says, we were never going through, but that was a statement performance tonight. Daniel Murray says, beating Feyenoord, Stuttgart, holding Bologna, not bad. Says you've got a nice electric fire as well, Keith. Traitor says, credit to Celtic win their first game in Germany, even though they face us Sunday, fair dues. Chick says, that sends a message to the rest of the league, and the hard work starts now. And he also says, McCowan and Sinizalo have got to be starters now on Sunday. Game Machine says it will do the club and players, especially fans, world of good. Rebels and others saying Sinizalo, big confidence for me, has to play on Sunday. And finally, Ross says, this result will give the players confidence. Yeah, the Sunday, big result to boost morale. That's the thing though, Keith. Brilliant tonight, brilliant result, brilliant performance. But I think Martin O'Neill does have genuine selection headaches now. I mean, first of all, the goalie. How do you see it?
Well, how did we react after the first leg, Dan? What did I say to you? I said that Martin O'Neill has got a bit of a problem here because he's walked away from that first leg, and he will have gone to bed that night asking himself some searching questions. What is his best 11? And I'm sure that's been in the back of his head ever since the first leg. And I think he's, not that this is a good headache to have, but it's compounded it a little bit, that performance tonight, because I think there are big questions. So let's look at it. Sinizalo, you said, goalkeeper, him or Schmeichel for Sunday. I understand that he's probably had a conversation with Kasper Schmeichel ahead of this game tonight. Maybe he said to him, don't worry, I'm just going to give Sinizalo 90 minutes, but you'll be back in for the weekend. Like, that could become an awkward one because for me, Sinizalo now has to start. He wanted to take a look at him in a testing environment. Possibly, he might have hoped that Sinizalo was harder work tonight than he actually was. But that goes credit to the way Celtic defended, fought for each other, shut down space, blocked shots. Sinizalo didn't have, it wasn't as if he was pulling out one breathtaking save after the next, but everything he had to do, he did really smartly, sharply. He looked nimble. He was coming for cross balls. He took one corner out there that took a lot of pressure off. He looked as if he was he was composed and in control of his emotions, and that's a big thing. Considering where Celtic are going next this weekend, for me, I think now, if you're Martin O'Neill, what are you doing if you put Schmeichel back in? You're effectively taking a bit of a punt, aren't you? Because if that goes badly, then the manager's going to carry the can. What are we doing putting him back in? Sinizalo went and kept a clean sheet in Germany. So I think it becomes that one was always going to be an issue heading into Ibrox. Sinizalo's performance tonight was pretty much spotless. Now, one thing that I would say, the one that Stuttgart thought their equaliser, it's a kind of half volley from 18 yards. And if Schmeichel dealt with that the way that Sinizalo dealt with it, i.e. he got a hand to it but didn't keep it out, people would probably be jumping up and down about it.
Aye, probably.
So that was his one, but he got away with it because it was correctly. I'm not sure if it was the correct decision. I don't know what they did in terms of getting to that decision.
See, I don't know if we're going
to do was to not let the goal stand.
I don't know if we were going to talk about that, but that was a mad bit of play. That was like something out of PE when one of the boys stands behind the goal and just jumps on. It was mad.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure what was going on with that. Who was it? It was Dimitrovic that was
the number 9
side of the pitch getting attended. I think he just had a bit of a head knock. what the fourth official was doing, I'm not even sure when you looked at it, the fourth official was even letting him on. I think he just decided he was going on.
He just went, aye.
Aye, but he went on at a time when Stuttgart were trying to pick holes in Celtic's defence, and he's come on unmarked into space. I have to say, Daniel, and I'm a stickler for believing in officials and all that, and I was very curious about the lines that were drawn on at that point to get him into an offside position. But I think it was the right thing to do.
Correct outcome.
Correct outcome. How they got there, I'm not entirely sure. But basically just out of sportsmanship. That there was something just that wasn't right about that. Anyway, it's Ndav that has the half volley that Sinisalo doesn't keep out down at his right. As I said, if that's Michael, there's probably an inquest tonight. There's probably people losing their stuff over that. But that moment aside, Sinisalo dealt with everything as well as he could have hoped. I don't think that he did come under serious fire at any point, and maybe Martin O'Neill would have liked to have seen that, maybe getting worked a little bit harder. But I find it now a difficult one. I don't know if you can take him out of the side and put Schmeichel back in, because if Schmeichel has a difficult afternoon at Ibrox, then that's going to rebound on the manager and his decision making. So yeah, he's one that I've reined. I think he's played his way in. I think the boys were talking about Dane Murray not starting the game at the weekend. I think they were expecting Benjamin and Arthur to come in and play centre half. For me, Dane Murray's played his way into the starting lineup for Ibrox.
Yeah.
I think that was a big night for him. I think that there have been times when he's looked a bit overawed, when he's looked a bit nervous, and that's understandable because he's desperately trying to make a good impression. But I thought tonight, when he cleared his head, when he just concentrated on doing the simple things, defending, I thought he looked really quite solid. He's obviously a physical specimen as well. But I think more than that, there was nothing spectacular about what he did tonight. But I'm telling you now, his confidence will have gone up through the roof after that 90 minutes. And do you take him out of the team now to change the entire centre defence, put in Scales and Benjamin and Arthur? I don't think you can do that. No. So I think, again, there's a boy that's just played his way into the starting lineup at Ibrox. Luke McCowan, Daniel, and you know that I've been banging the drum for him.
You have?
Without getting any love back, by the way. On several occasions, I've floated the idea that I think that Celtic could get more out of him. They should be using him more. I think he deserves more game time. I thought he was outstanding tonight. And it's not just the goal, but obviously the goal helps. But it's even the fact that when he gets into the position to score the goal, running beyond the striker. I thought his use of the ball was terrific. I thought his energy was terrific. And this is here's a real difficult one then, because if Luke McGowan starts, who comes out? And I'm saying right now it's probably Nygren.
Well, because he started ahead of Nygren tonight, didn't he? Started in that.
But it's in that position. It's in that position. And I think you get more out of Luke McCowan out of possession than you will do off Benjamin Nygren.
The thing is,
I know this is a mad kind of argument to make, because Nygren's the guy that keeps weighing in with big important goals, and he might well do that again at Ibrox. But for me, in terms of covering ground, shutting bodies down, doing the dirty side of the game, and this Celtic midfield has been imbalanced and it's been a problem. And the boys have been talking about it. You've heard Mick talking about it. I don't know how many times Ryan's mentioned it. For me, Luke McCowan will give you the industry that Celtic are going to need in the middle of the pitch. When when they're not in possession, he's going to have to drop back in. He'll get about that pitch. He'll rat about. He'll do all the dirty work. And I think he's proven tonight again that when he does get into that final third, he's really capable. Whether it's he's finishing, which is that was a real clinical, finished, perfectly taken goal. But also, I like his invention in that final third. I think he can spot passes. I think he and he's a willing runner to get beyond. I think he might have played his way into a starting place. But again, that's a real tricky one, because it probably means taking out Nygren. And then the only last one, half circled it and put a couple of question marks as Adamu, who without being scintillating or really stealing the show, I thought he did quite a lot of good work tonight.
Me too. Aye.
As a centre forward, as a focal point, and that's something that I don't know. Does Chavanchara give you that same platform to build around? I'm not sure.
It's funny because Chavanchara is such a big guy, tall, imposing figure, but he doesn't really like the rough stuff, does he? And he doesn't score many goals. Adamu set the goal up tonight, put himself about a bit. I know Celtic were barely in Stuttgart's last third, but I think he's given Martin O'Neill a decision to make.
Adamu's not a prolific goal scorer either.
Of course,
he's got one for Celtic, and I think that was his first goal in a long while. What did he? I think he's only had 7 goals in the last couple of seasons. So you're not saying you put him into the team thinking that's where your goals are going to come from.
Aye,
but
true.
He might give Celtic a platform to get further up the pitch. And he's not as tall as Chavanchara, but he's physically a bit of a handful. Moves around quite well. I don't know. That's why I've left question marks there. But it's another thing that Martin O'Neill at least has got an option to think about as he prepares now. First and foremost, by the way, the one downside from it tonight is that was physically a shift for Celtic.
Aye.
So the first thing you'll need to do is get back to Glasgow and then assess the lumps and bumps and the knocks and the bruises and who's ready, who's looking good, who's struggling, because that was another heavy shift and another heavy shift for Callum McGregor.
Aye, I mean that tonight. Funny you mentioned that, Keith, because tonight I was looking at the stats. That's Callum McGregor, who's 32 now. That was his 45th game of the season.
Yeah,
45. I mean, there's a conversation I think to be had about the amount of football that's played. That's obviously for another day. But do you not think this was probably a game he could have done without tonight?
Look, I don't think if you'd sat Callum McGregor down and offered him the night off tonight, I'm not sure that he would have taken it. Just the sort of guy he is. He wants to play. He's used to playing real high number of fixtures season after season. And even at his, he's no spring chicken, but he's not an old guy,
No, of course not. No.
And he's a very clever football player that sort of I think controls his input throughout games. He's not making runs that he doesn't need to make. He plays in an area of a pitch where he can control stuff, where he can make an influence, where he can influence what's going on around him. He's not one of these guys. There are some midfielders that think if I run about like mad over the course of the night, I'll get noticed or all. Cal McGregor kind of limits. He knows when to go, when not to go. He knows the areas to play in. Yes, that would have been a hard shift for him tonight, no doubt about it. But I thought he was excellent again.
I thought he was brilliant. I thought he had a great game.
So there's the thing. If I was Martin O'Neill, might have considered taking him off after 60 minutes. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're not going to go through this tie. That ship sailed. I might have considered letting him rest his legs for the last half hour of that tonight. But he stayed on, as usual, to the last kick of the ball. And there was a moment, wasn't it? I mean, even he did take a heavy knock, didn't he? It was round about the hour mark. And that might have been the perfect time just to say, right, come off. But he clearly didn't want to come off and went on to contribute again. But I think there was a few hearts and a few mouths when he went down, because you don't see him going down that often, and he looked in a bit of distress at first. But there you go, that's Callum McGregor. Total machine, just gets up, gets on with it. And had another fine 90 minutes for Celtic.
We get tons of comments coming in. Keith Rebel, first of all, says, "Where's Mick? He's eating all the hot dogs." I mean, that's outrageous. Besmirching the man's character.
The Frankfurters Rebel.
The Bratwursts. He's him and Record Sports Riley McDonald, they're out in the Mercedes-Benz Arena in Stuttgart. Hopefully they were going to join us, but I think they're up to their eyes in post-match press conferences and work for the paper, so it looks unlikely. But plenty of other comments coming in. Let me throw a few of these at you. Marzuno says, McCowan can be good, but he's absolute stinkers sometimes, loses the ball all the time. David agrees with you, though. Although Don says Nygren virtually guarantees goals, he'll start. Rebel again says, I agree with every word, Keith. You're on the ball tonight. Although Green Machine says, looks too inconsistent. Great impact player, a toss-up. Who's the fastest, him or Nygren? And Stephen says Nygren will start. It's a silly suggestion. And then
It is a silly suggestion because Nygren's goals have been, such an important part of Celtic's campaign. It's impossible to think where they might be right now had it not been for the amount of goals that he's weighed in with. What is it, 18 now?
18.
But Luke McGowan showed tonight that given a half a chance in front of goal, he's got the composure, he's a good finisher. I just think he gives you a whole lot more off the ball. And I think that's what Celtic are really going to need at Ibrox.
Yeah.
Listen, Nygren has got this habit of contributing very little to the overall team performance, but then contributing the most important part of it by getting the goals.
Yeah.
I just get this feeling that Rangers midfield has got a lot of legs. It's full of energy, quite a bit of intensity in there. That's where Rangers think the game will probably get won and lost, I would imagine. I would think it might be they might go with something similar to what they did when Danny Rowe changed it at Celtic Park. So that was a flat 3, wasn't it? Diomande, Nygren. He just switched teams at half time, got his jersey off and put it in. No. Diomande, Raskin, and it was Connor Barron. Chukwani will come in, I would think. I think that's what Rangers will look to do, tie up the middle of the pitch. And I think to combat that, Celtic are going to need players that are prepared to get about, to do the dirty stuff. And I think Luke McCowan, I mean, he'll be absolutely busting to start that game. I think it's something that maybe it is a silly suggestion, but I do think it's something that Martin O'Neill will be thinking long and hard about between now and the weekend.
You'd imagine the two sort of number 6 holding midfielders for Celtic is a no-brainer, McGregor and the Oxlade-Chamberlain. You'd have thought it'll be the two starting.
Yeah, I mean, again, so Hatarte comes in tonight and you're thinking Hatate's in, Oxlade-Chamberlain wasn't available for selection tonight, but if Hatarte is a great game, does he keep his place? If he does, who drops out? It would be Oxlade-Chamberlain. Hatarte confused me tonight, Daniel, and I don't know if it's just me. What I want from Hatarte is what he does on the ball, his ability to pick passes, to build play. I thought he was pretty sloppy again tonight, and that's the thing that I think why Celtic fans are tearing their hair out, because they know that he's so much better on the ball. He's got quality. I thought when he was on the ball tonight, I thought he was erratic. I lost count the amount of times he got caught. The ball was turned over when he was misplacing passes. That would be a worry at Ibrox. You can't have that. Celtic, if they get the ball, they need to keep it for spells. But then the flip side of that is Hatarte put in a shift tonight. There was, and the accusation has been that he's checked out. To me, he didn't look as if he'd checked out. He just wasn't playing very well, but the energy and the application was there from Hatarte tonight.
Yeah.
But I do think, he'll drop back onto the bench. You would expect Oxlade-Chamberlain will keep that position in the middle of the pitch.
Just to go back then to the overall kind of lineup that Celtic will probably go with at the weekend, am I right in saying that you would go with Sinisalo and Dane Murray?
Yeah.
Yep.
And McCowan.
And McCowan. And then, so up front, would you go for Chavanchara?
I think up front Celtic have got decisions to make, because I looked at Maeda again tonight and he's not doing it for me. I know that Dyson Maeda's Dyson Maeda, right? So I'm sure that he can do a sprint that covers 200 yards in about 5 seconds flat, and it looks as if he's really up for it. But I'm sorry, I'm not convinced. So yeah, there are moments in games when you look at him and say, "Oh, that looks like the old Dyson there." I think he's going too long through periods of games without really making a contribution. It looks almost a little bit half-hearted. So, but yeah, your common sense logic tells you that Dyson Maeda's got to play against Rangers because he's had so much joy playing against Rangers. But if I'm looking at it going, I thought Yang put in a good shift tonight. So do you look at it and go Chivanchara and wonder if he could get into a team maybe in a wider area? Or do you look at Tenekte and think he's worthy of a start? I don't know, but these are questions, Martin, and you'll need to come up with the answers. Long and short of it is Dyson Maeda probably starts on one side. Maybe Yang did enough tonight to suggest that he's a starter at Ibrox, and then that leaves you your question at centre forward, and it probably does come back to Chivanchara.
Marzuno in the comments there says, I think it'll be Tunekte, Maeda and Yang. For what it's worth, I think it'll be Tunekte on the left, Chavanchara through the middle and Maeda on the right. I think that's what it was against Hibs last weekend.
Well, that didn't go particularly well.
It didn't go very well, did it? But I just think...
Yang, I was quite impressed with Yang tonight. And
me too.
Again, look, Celtic didn't really do much going forward, right? So, but that's not the point of what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the collective spirit and teammates willing to run themselves into the ground for one another. And there was 3, 4, 5 occasions probably I counted back where Yang was getting back, covering in for his fullback because it's funny the way that Celtic are playing just now. The fullbacks, they're not inverted, but they're narrow. They're really narrow. I think Martin O'Neill's conscious of the fact that he's trying to make sure that Celtic's defence doesn't have big gaps to play through as it did under the previous incumbent. So the fullbacks come in. So that gives you a real onus on the wide men. They need to get back because they need help. And it was levelling in the first half was given Colby Donovan some difficult moments. Yeah. But Yang was more than prepared to get back and double up and help out and block crosses. And I think that's the sort of performance, the sort of commitment that's going to be required for Celtic to get in and out of Ibrox with limited damage done this weekend. It is going to be about who can you hang your hat on to put in a real shift, selfless stuff. Yang did that tonight. And I'm not sure that Tenekte offers you that. As good as he can be in the final third, you know, he can have these really inspirational moments. He scored a couple of breathtaking goals. Am I getting defensive cover out of Tenekte? I don't think I am.
Probably not.
So Yang might have done enough tonight to give Martin O'Neill yet another headache.
Before we wrap up, Keith, Jack in the comments says, on that display, Rangers have nothing to be concerned about. Trust me. I would go the other way and say that, look, Celtic were dreading these 4 games, you know, Stuttgart away, Rangers away, Aberdeen away, Rangers away. They've got through maybe the most daunting one with not only a good performance, but a victory. And I mean, I don't know if I might be going a bit too far. I think it might even spook Rangers a wee bit. They might, because I think everyone thought Celtic were going to go there and get beat 4 or 5-0. I
think we need to keep everything in context, Dan.
Okay. Aye.
And not get too overexcited because, as we said at the start of the show, the tie was over, right? And Stuttgart were quite happy playing, keeping the ball. You know, I thought they were sloppy in the final third. I think if there was more on that game for them tonight, it could have been a very different result. So keep all that in mind. They did just what they needed to do to make sure that there wasn't some disastrous collapse. And they did it pretty easily because Celtic weren't really visible as an attacking force in that match tonight. But you've got to bear in mind also the quality of the opponent. And for me, as I said to you, Dan, well, Celtic had even... I think it's great for them to get that win because we were talking the other night and there was the strong potential for Celtic to be looking at 4 potential successive defeats in this period. But there's Michael Gannon, and he's a better guy to speak to about it than me.
Sweat dripping off me here, racing about, filling coffee.
It's good to see you doing a shift, Mick.
Well, it's about time, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
But yeah, how are we, guys?
Very good. We've obviously just been discussing the game, Mick. Massive result for Celtic. Obviously didn't get through, but really encouraging, really uplifting performance.
Yeah, I think they got a bit of pride back after last week. Listen, weirdly, I didn't think there was much in it last week. The game last week, either. Just that the goals that were conceded were really poor. But tonight, obviously, the game, listen, let's be honest, the game was done before it kicked off. But I think Celtic salvaged a bit of pride. I thought the performance was really good. Obviously, there's so many changes in the team, but I thought they were really organised, disciplined. I thought they defended really kind of resolutely. Some good performances from guys that maybe surprised some people. Obviously, I don't know what you guys have been talking about. Obviously, the goalkeeping situation is interesting now. Sinisterra coming in and doing pretty well.
Would you start him at the weekend, Mick?
Sorry?
Would you start Sinizalo on Sunday now? We've just been debating that.
I think I would probably start him, yeah, but I still think Martin O'Neill will go with Schmeichel on Sunday. I think it's maybe
Schmeichel comes in and we know what his form's like. His confidence can't be high. If he comes in and has another difficult afternoon at Ibrox, that one rebounds on Martin O'Neill, because Sinisalo's come in tonight and he's done everything asked of him, and he looked confident and assured and calm. Everything you would look for to throw down a marker for the weekend.
I know, and I think actually the performance of Dane Murray tonight might help it as well. But I was thinking, might be thinking that he needs all the experience he can get for Ibrox, especially if he's got a kind of rookie centre half in there, either Dane Murray or Benjamin Arthur, and you might think that he needs Schmeichel's experience, but experience doesn't keep the ball at the back of the net. Experience doesn't, it's only gets you so far, and the performances haven't been great for Schmeichel. So I take that point. I just think he might gamble on keeping Schmeichel in there for his experience and hoping that he can get through from now till the end of the season.
Okay, so
Sinatalo's definitely put himself in the hat. I mean, I thought he was good tonight. Listen, I thought maybe the weird kind of controversial VAR goal, I thought maybe it looked a wee bit, when it came through a crowd, didn't it? I thought maybe we could have done better than that.
If that happens to Schmeichel, he's getting absolutely slaughtered for it.
That's exactly what I thought. It was like a very similar kind of one we've seen in recent weeks. But in fairness to him, it did come through a crowd that got a few wee nicks along the way. It was a bizarre moment, wasn't it? That whole
yeah.
It's crazy.
Your man running back onto the pitch out of nowhere.
I admire his brazenness. Fair play to him for even trying it, but it was a bit mad.
Actually, I don't know. Ian didn't have a lot of access to the pictures, but it looked to me that it was on side. When they gave offside, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
It looked to me like they'd drawn a wee wonky line to get themselves out of trouble.
Said I
kind of suggested that earlier. It was the curviest straight line you'll ever see.
I was going to say, I like to see that ruler they used for that one. I thought they maybe just used that to get themselves out a bit of a pickle.
Mike, I've said, right, we were chatting earlier, for me tonight, Sinisalo, Murray and Luke McCowan, I think, have all played their way into the starting lineup for Ibrox, and possibly Yang as well.
I think Yang will win anyway. I think, Luke McCowan, I thought he was terrific. Took his goal brilliantly, didn't he? I mean, it was a lovely little clipped finish. I thought his energy was good. In contrast, I thought Hatarte again wasn't great again. I mean, you're watching them, there's guys running by in one direction and guys running by in the other direction. You think, you don't need a bit of legs and energy in there. I think McCowan's put himself into the reckoning, especially if you're going to be, I'd imagine Oxlade-Chamberlain will start.
Mm-hmm.
How long he can last, we don't know. But I think McCowan's got a part to play. I thought he was good. He was good tonight. I think he's been mucked about all season, like McCowan. He's been playing left wing, right wing, left back, wing back, probably centre half under Wilfred Nance at one point, like the rest of them. I think he's a central midfield player. He's got good legs, good energy. He can pick a pass and he can score a goal. I think play him in there. I think he's definitely gave his manager food for thought.
Here's one for you. Would you consider playing him, starting him ahead of Benjamin Nygren for the energy that he put into that midfield, for the hard yards he'll put in?
This is the kind of the conundrum with Benjamin Nygren as well, because he's not. But you're playing him because he's a goal threat, and he's liable to pop up with a goal or an assist, but you lose something in the middle of the park. So I can totally get that. So if you're either taking a major part of your goals, in fact, you're probably only part of the goals to score in this season, out the team, do you sacrifice that for a more solid shape? I think you might have to go to Ibrox. So I think Celtic can go there. A point isn't a disaster for Celtic at Ibrox. Losing probably would be. So I think McCowan's energy, because I can see the argument, but it's a total dilemma for the manager, because you need that goal threat. This is the same early season under Brendan Rodgers as well. We needed the goal threat on the pitch, but then you sacrifice a bit of control in there. Tonight's game was different, but I mean, Celtic didn't control the game obviously because Stuttgart was doing most of the pressing and most of the pressure up. It had 70% possession. Different kind of game. That Ibrox is going to be a bit more harem scarum. The ball's going to be getting hot potato treatment a lot of the time. Be hell for leather. So do you need that control? I think possibly yes, but you also need to go for it, which Negan brings. So listen, that's why managers get paid big bucks to make his decisions. But it's definitely a tricky one. Do you play him as a kind of false nine and then take that out of the equation? But then I thought Adama was quite good tonight for his hour. Bit kind of scruffy at times, but a handful. He occupied his centre halves. I thought he could be lay off for the goal as well. I thought he was interesting. Does he get chucked in because of the physicality? Because Rangers are quite a big side. Obviously, the threat set pieces and all that stuff. So I think that's another one. It's an interesting one because Chankara's not quite as strong in the air. Even if he won tonight, I thought he'd been one of that goal I was talking about. He get beaten there, didn't he, for that goal, and the ball comes straight back in again.
Mm-hmm.
So, what it does, I think tonight what it's done is actually it's probably confused things for Sunday for Celtic. It's muddied the waters big time.
Mate, this whole tie, both legs have done exactly that because Martin put out what he thought was his best 11, strongest 11 for the first tie, and the substitutions actually improved Celtic a little bit in the game at Celtic a little bit. And he's made changes tonight, and every single, we're talking about 4 or 5 kind of conundrums now that he's got to unlock between now and naming his team on Sunday lunchtime. So it's really interesting.
Do you know the only one I'm taking my hat on is I think Dane Murray's probably played himself in the team for Sunday now.
I'm convinced of that, Mick.
I think he would probably been thinking of Benjamin Arthur potentially, but now having stood up to the challenge tonight, I thought Dane Murray was good. With some really good blocks. He kept it simple. He didn't try and fancy.
He wasn't phased. Yeah.
I thought he was good. That would be good for him tonight. So I think he's probably the one that's probably put him into the team. The rest is probably up in the air, really. I think.
Do you know the other one, Keith, that we haven't mentioned at all tonight? Tony says in the comments, Sriracha's better than Tierney. There, I said it. I don't know if he's better than Tierney, but I thought he was brilliant again tonight, Sriracha. And again, it gives you a bit of a dilemma because I'd imagine Tierney wasn't playing tonight because he's going to play on Sunday. But I love Sriracha's commitment, and he's another guy you'd probably want in.
Listen, I'll defer to Mick. Sriracha, I thought, did fine. He's got a lot of energy. He never lets you down. He always puts in a shift. But he's not Kieran Tierney. And I think Kieran Tierney was specifically allowed the night off tonight to make sure that he's up and ready for Sunday. So I don't think that's one that will trouble Martin O'Neill's sleeping time.
Okay. Sorry, I'm getting thrown out here. No, I agree. I think Tierney starts. I think Sriracha has been good. I think he actually does help the way Celtic can play sometimes because he can step in the middle of the park and play that kind of inverted role. I don't know if it's too late now to be mucking about, but I think maybe you can try him in the middle of the park in midfield because Celtic's midfield is a problem for them of late, and to play him in there. The only thing about Sriracha is I think he struggles a wee bit fitness wise. He's not played an awful lot of football. He's been injured twice this season. He's not quite got himself up to the full on 90 minutes. He's a bit like where Kieran Tierney was at the start of the season. But it means you could say to Kieran Tierney, go and empty your tank for an hour and then you can get replaced. So I think that's more likely to be the kind of scenario for Sunday. But Tierney, I think is a nailed on starter. Experienced player. I mean, a good player. He's been in good form, Kieran Tierney, of late. I think he's been off the boil at times, but he's not. I think he's actually been pretty good. There's a lot of confusion, not confusion, but a lot of kind of issues now at Sunday. I'm surprised that Callum McGregor played 90 minutes right enough.
We said that, aye.
Even when he goes down, Mick, and he takes a bit of a kick. Yeah. I think, well, now's the perfect time to get him off and let him have the final half hour to rest his legs. But again, stays on for every kick of the ball, doesn't he?
Well, the thing is, you see it before the game, you think he's back in Stuttgart. This is the place where his last Scotland cap was against Hungary, remember? So you think, and he's playing a game, his 45th game of the season. He's the only one, or one of the few, that's not rested for Sunday. You think, this is all the ingredients here for a Callum McGregor old firm injury scare story, isn't it? Now, you don't listen, it's like cover this game for years and years. You see all the kind of ingredients are there for it, and then he gets kicked, and you think, and he's down. He's not a guy that stays down very often.
No.
So you're thinking, oh, as it's coming to fruition, this is the kind of the foreshadowing that we saw before kickoff. But then he gets back up again, and he's had a shout at the linesman for not not getting involved. And he seems okay, but it was a sore one, mate. Enough the boy caught him pretty hard. But he wants to play. I spoke about last night to Martin Neal. Callum McGregor wants to lead from the front all the time, whether it's against Stuttgart, Rangers, or Auchinleck Talbot. He wants to be leading by example.
You'll never ask for a night off, man.
No, he's never going to say, yeah, you know what, I could do a night off. It's just not in his nature. Yeah. He's like, I'm playing. So,
you seen the comments there, Mike, before we let you go? There's a rumour starting here that Rebel's saying you've been thrown out of hospitality for eating all the bratwursts. Can you comment on that?
No, I had a wee bit of schnitzel before the game. It was lovely.
Lovely.
In Germany, you always looked after in Germany in these in the press rooms. So the wee bit of schnitzel before the game, it was delicious.
Lovely. Well, look, before you get properly thrown out,
Frank we'll the tank.
we'll let you go, Mick. But thanks again for joining us on Hotline Live as ever. We massively appreciate it, and safe travels up the road.
Better late than never, boys. Better late than never.
Thanks, Mick.
No worries, guys.
Thanks, Mick. Much appreciated. Mick Gannon there, Keith, the one and only, the Hotline legend.
I knew. I told you were doubting him and all that. I'm saying,
no, I know you're right.
You can put the kettle on. Mick will be here.
See, before we wrap up though, Keith, looking ahead to Sunday's game, Jack, who's a Rangers fan, says Celtic could start the Terminator on Sunday and they'll still not win. I don't think the Terminator's a particularly good footballer, but anyway. But Stephen, Celtic fan, says if we can beat one of the best teams in the Europa League away from home, we can beat one of the worst teams in the Europa League away from home. I like his logic there. How do you see Sunday going?
That's it. It's just there's no point even comparing these two games tonight. As we've said, Stuttgart got out of the game tonight what they wanted, which is go through with minimum fuss. And they did that. They wouldn't have enjoyed the fact that they lost the game, but they were in control of it, weren't they? I mean, it was the outcome was never in any doubt in terms of the tie. Rangers, on the other hand, will be going to this hell for leather. It might require a similar Celtic performance, and that's why I said at the start of the show tonight, Dan, exactly what I said. I think Celtic take a lot of confidence from that, because all the big ingredients that have been missing lately, in terms of the desire, the application, the energy, intensity, whatever word you want to use for it, that was there, and it was there in spades tonight. And it's going to be exactly what's required at Ibrox. So that, for me, I would think Celtic go into that game now feeling a whole lot better about themselves, a whole lot more confident in their chances than they might have done. Had that gone badly tonight, had they been in the end of another hiding, then that could have really done a bit of damage going into the weekend. But I think they'll be very happy with the level of performance, and I think they'll realise as well that by being prepared to work as hard for each other as they were tonight, do the same at Ibrox, you might end up with a similar result or a better one. But Rangers aren't going to be sparing any horses in this one either, Dan. This is going to be up and at 90 minutes of mayhem, probably. And I don't know. What do I think? Rangers have been strong at home. That the one downside from Celtic tonight is that would have sapped a bit of energy. Rangers have had a clear week. They have been strong at home. Physically, they're going to be a real test for Celtic, because especially since the January transfer window shut, they've upgraded in terms of their physicality. They're a big team. Yep. And I think they'll make it a physical contest.
Do you think they'll go with the two up, Keith, like they did against Hearts, Nadini and Chernigov?
I suspect they will, yeah.
Me too.
But then Danny Rowe's proven a difficult guy to second guess as well. That's one of his big strengths, is that he's not predictable. You don't know what you're getting with him from one game to the next in terms of what his selection or his formation, the tactics are going to look like. So he does mix it up, but I think he'll be very tempted to revert to something similar to what he played in the game when he beat Hearts. And I think that'll be a real test for an unfamiliar Celtic backline and Big Dane Murray. But at least he goes into that with a lot of confidence after the way he performed tonight.
So what's your score? What's the score?
She didn't get a score.
Go for it. What's it going to be?
it's impossible. I think because Rangers form at home, and because I do think they look better with the two strikers, I think it might. I'll hedge. No, I won't. I'll go 2-1 Rangers.
McKinnon in the comments says toss of a coin who wins it. So I'm going for a draw. He's a big jambo, and I think it will be a draw.
That's the ideal result for Hearts, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think it will be that way. I think it's going to be mad. I think it's going to be 2-2 or 3-3. Just one of these crazy games again. Which
I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be good.
And we will be on after it for an Old Firm special. And obviously looking back on what happened on the Saturday as well, because big games all over the shop now.
Definitely.
What time are we kicking off? Hotline Live?
For a Hotline Live Sunday special, 3 o'clock, I believe.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock sharp. So as Keith says, we'll be reacting to Rangers versus Celtic at Ibrox. And we'll be on at 3 p.m. and we'll pour over all of the other Premiership weekend action as well. But for tonight, I think that brings us to the end of the Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. Thank you for all the comments. Thanks for joining us a little bit later tonight. And hopefully, as I say, you can join us at 3 p.m. on Sunday. Keith, it's always an absolute pleasure.
Night, Dan.
And thanks again to Mick Gannon and his bratwurst over there. Hope he gets up the road safe. And thanks for watching.